Hello.
Hello.
How are we doing?
Yes, I'm very, very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm excited to get involved. Um, we've got quite some depth to cover, but yeah, really excited to delve into it and hear really about about you because obviously I found you. Well, we found each other in the sense of coming together at the Carry On Camping Festival, and you had a stand there, didn't you? You had it was for Kangen water. Um,
Yeah, my Tangle Morty. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, and I don't know. I guess I was intrigued about Kangen water, so yeah, I wanted to come over, see what you were, see what you're doing, and obviously we just got talking, and here we are. So that was like 3 years ago now.
Yeah, time flies, eh? We
Crazy.
bonded over our love of good water.
Yeah, that's it. I still haven't got one yet, but I got a Berkey at the moment, but I will get one because I know they're the superior water filter. Um, and yeah, I'm sure you could speak just briefly about that just before we get into briefly about that and briefly about what you're doing now. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me here, Alex, and I'm excited to get chatting. So the Kangen water, well, I have just to talk about that briefly. Then I've always been I'll just put it bluntly, like a bit of a water snob. Like I'm never one for tap water. Um, I'd always be the person who asks for the bottled water at the table if we go out for a meal. And I started to become curious about different methods to bring in the best water to our home, really, for the children, for myself, and for Nick. And I stumbled across the Kangen machine, which is a water ionizer. So it filters the water, removes your fluoride, but then it also ionizes it, which essentially is creating. Sorry, my throat is a bit. Keep coughing, but I'll be all fine. So the water it basically creates what's called living structured water. So it's water that is has molecular hydrogen in. And if you're in like the health movement at the moment, molecular hydrogen is becoming quite popular because it is such an amazing product, basically, this water that is full of antioxidants, not antibiotics, antioxidants, and just is so good for you. So yeah, it's an amazing machine. There's so many functions that's like a whole other conversation. But
Yeah,
basically, it's this conscious water that is fantastic, and I really aligned with it. So yeah, I got involved with it.
yeah, awesome. And obviously now your vocation, your passion now is to help people break free, and we can extrapolate on what that actually means. And this can tie into sort of our first topic, which is fully embracing your true self. And
Mm.
that can seem quite a ambiguous sort of terminology, but really what you just said about aligning with that and the values related to what it does and what it means for your family and for you, that's kind of a part of embracing your true self, right? So let me sort of gauge what it is that you help people break free from, and how your your vocation, your values, how aligned they are, how they can help people align with themselves.
Mm. Yeah, amazing question. Um, so I think just to take it like a little bit of a step back,
Yeah.
um, um, throughout my life, I've kind of been one way or the other. Like the beginning of my life, I was very much um, within sort of mainstream society. I like did really well at school. I went to school, to college, to university. I traveled, I got the job, I settled down, I had the children. I was very much in that path. And I kind of got all of that. And then and me and my husband, thankfully at the same time, we're both kind of like, well, what now? Like, we've done all of that. What's next? And this ties into the breaking free, because we're almost like sent this kind of, this is a template of how we should live our lives by society. And you can do that, and sometimes that's perfect for you, but other times you might feel like there's something missing, and maybe you're not living to the truth of who you are authentically. And this is kind of what I do with my coaching work, and where it aligns with the Kangen as well, because it's all about sort of stepping out and becoming curious and recognizing that everyone's different and we don't have to follow a set structure. We can go within and find out how it is that we want to live and find our way of freedom. And it's like a process that you go through, recognizing that we've got this subconscious and these limiting beliefs that almost keep us small and trapped. And it's about working through those and many other aspects, but that's kind of the overall topic of then finding who you truly are underneath that programming and conditioning that we all pick up throughout our life.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and the necessity for that now is, like you said, more people are becoming curious, more people are existential, meaning they're questioning their existence. And you can say that it's sort of not being as sort of thought about by many people, like en masse, collectively. And you could say, if you were to weigh it up, that that's still the case. But now what we're seeing and why we're stepping into this space is because we've underwent that process that you spoke about, and now it's a case of, okay, we can provide the tools now to actually help you navigate it and live in alignment, live in integrity, and letting go of, like you said, all of these sort of mental prisons, all these mental traps to break free out of. And yeah, there's such a need now for that. When you think of how this even came about, like, how did we even lose ourselves? You know, how did we end up in this prison, like this figurative mental prison? Like, you know, it's like, how did it happen? How did it happen? Yeah, for all of us, and for you generally, like, what was how did you know you were in one?
Yeah, I mean, like, how deep should we go?
Very. We're under a little bit of a filter, but we can go deep.
Yeah, I feel that, like, I mean, so just the first part of the question, you know, how does this happen? Like, how do we sort of pick up all these things? Like, we've got this subconscious brain, which is there for a reason. And ultimately, our subconscious is there to keep us safe. And our subconscious believes that anything that is known, that is comfortable, will mean safety. And anything that is unfamiliar equals danger, basically. And so there is this, like, the people who control this world, they know this about us. And this is keeping it quite simple, but basically, from the moment we are born, we are programmed through this subconscious to have this little me syndrome. And this is through, like, our schooling, our parents, the TV shows, you know, going to the doctor. Everything around us is there to program us into this little me. I need to look out there for a hero. I need to look outwards, when actually it's all inverted. It should be about looking in. And I think what's happened is there's been so much going on, and there's such an uncomfortable feeling of something isn't right, that people are starting to question. And it's like a domino effect of, the more people that are questioning, the more that are questioning. And it's like this, it is like a conscious awakening of, well, hang on a minute, is this really how we're supposed to live? Are we supposed to live in these boxes where we, you know, our time constraints and all these things that are put upon us that, oh, is that your cat?
Yeah. Carry on, carry
Oh.
on, carry on. You're in flow.
Yeah, like there's so many things about how we are living that is hurting the soul, you know, like literally we're feeling uncomfortable, and we are starting to wake up to this, and it is like that domino effect of shining a light on it. And this isn't anything new. People have talked about this for hundreds of years, but it's slowly becoming more and more popular the more that we are being sort of forced into this corner of almost acting like almost robots, where we're so far away from our true essence. More and more people are pushing back.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, exactly. And like you said, it's not like it's new. There's people who were able to have this perception, you know, years and years ago. So now the shift has changed. Like someone said in the comments, there's a massive awareness appearing, and awareness is just another word for consciousness. So that's subconscious, which is meaning obviously sub meaning below, conscious meaning obviously what we can see and interact with. That now is starting to become more conscious, right? So the subconscious and the conscious, and now the neural networks, or the connection to something greater than ourselves, is now being established. And this in turn, like you said, is letting people know what they've missed, really. And we're now we're in a position now to look for answers from people who have been on the path a little bit longer. Obviously, it's an individual thing, but people can, like with any coach and any trainer, can make that a little bit quicker, can allow the confusion to subside a little bit sooner than having to endure, you know, what we've no doubt been through, the ups and downs, and it's like once you're out of a certain prison, it's like you can't go back. So
no.
This is it. So with that comes sovereignty, right? And stepping into pure individualism, but being aware that you're part of a collective as well. And
yeah, absolutely. Like I feel like it's like I've just been thinking about the inner work that, you know, I'm sure you've done, I know I've done, so many people are doing now, and it's almost like we are having no choice, because things are like popping up in front of us, and we're working through all this stuff. And part of me felt, you know, God, I'm a parent, you know, I'm a mother, I've got a home educator, I'm trying to do these things. Is it selfish? Is this a selfish thing for me to do? And someone actually said to me, but if you level yourself up 1%, the people around you are getting a version of you that's 1% better. And this is that ripple effect. If you improve yourself by 10%, they're going to benefit from that. And this is the thing, then, you know, like then you connect, and we're all doing it together. You know, throughout the years we've both been on a journey, and it's not an easy thing, but it's a beautiful thing to witness.
yeah,
And that's happening.
definitely. And this is the beauty of it. You look at yourself 10 years ago to now, and you can't articulate, or you can't represent the change that's happened in here, but almost your energy, right? Again, you can't see energy, but when you're around someone, you feel the energy. And I'm gonna assume, which I don't like to do, that when you've been around someone 10 years ago, to then see them again, like they're not only looking at you like physically likely different, but they're feeling your energy, the difference in that, and yeah, the positive energy ripple effect. We're no longer in, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we go through this work, you know, I'm sure you do as well, but I fully believe, you know, it's so within as without, and as that's the becoming sovereign, that's the taking responsibility ourselves of what's going on in this world. And that's where we are having to do this work, and we're almost just being shown it. We're being called to do it because this is what I believe is going to make change. It's, you know, it's taking action, but it's taking action from a heart place and with love, rather than the ways of the world that was almost before, you know, and that's the sovereignty around it.
Exactly. And you know, we're also, when we're talking about sovereignty, obviously that comes with, like you said, responsibility, and it's not the responsibility that we think. It's more of acknowledging your part to play in other people's lives. So I can speak only for myself, that when I've changed myself, other people have changed, like family as a result, in a positive way. And I've done that because I've disconnected from toxic influences. I've, you know, healed certain aspects of myself, my shadow, you know, these negative parts of me that I'm still working on things. Like, it's not a finished product, but a lot of work has been done, right? So we can both agree that no one really is like the finished article, because there's so many layers, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like a never ending, it's not a linear journey, is it? It's like this continuous, like fluid kind of spiral that we go through, you know, of wonder. And we're not sat in some cave meditating for 20 hours a day, you know, we're out in the world, we're experiencing. And so we're always going to have the ups and downs of life. But it's when you can, excuse me, sort of learn to respond rather than react, and, you know, really become more conscious, you know, bring it back to the subconscious, really become more conscious in the choices that we make and how we view things.
Definitely. Yeah, there's always work to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, yeah, it's true. It's to say, you know, that you're finished is naive. But again, it's just knowing those aspects of yourself that were a part of the same systematic sort of uniform way of being that we've all gone through, and knowing which parts of them were sort of detrimental to self and others, and then acknowledging that these are the parts that aren't no good for us and no good for anyone. And this is kind of where the journey takes you. But again, it's identifying and stepping away from them. That it gives you the lucidity, it gives you the clarity, and this is what it's all about. This is why we're doing this conversation, is to shed that light, and yeah, really resonate with people who might be in a dark place right now. You know, it's what it's about, but there's no need to stay there. You know, there's no need to stay there. And with that comes really embodying your trust, embodying self-trust, knowing what you are as well, right? So if we subscribe to the Darwinian theory that we are, you know, just we've evolved from primitive species, and you know, we're this and that. We're basically we're subjecting ourselves to this idea that really doesn't do ourselves justice. So when you are coaching with people, how do you sort of gauge people's energy, and like how do you sort of approach them when it comes to like the limiting beliefs? I would say that is a limiting belief right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important, and that's like I love everything you're saying as well, by the way. And I feel like I want to tell a funny story quickly here, because I was really blessed when I was growing up that my both my parents were on the same wavelength of what we're talking about now. But as a child, I didn't want to know anything about any of this. And I remember studying for my science GCSE, and I was telling my dad, who bless him was listening to my like revising my notes through, about Darwin's theory, and he was like, "Well, that's a load of nonsense." And I was like, "Oh, Dad, you know, if I put that down, I'm going to fail the GCSE. You know, I've got to write what they want to hear." And you know, even then, you know, so I've been very blessed throughout my life that I've had that sort of alternative background, but they also let me live my own journey. And I feel that that's kind of almost important with coaching as well, because I'm not there to tell people my views on the world. I'm there to meet people where they're at, and if someone's questioning or would like to know some information, then I can absolutely share, you know, my views on you know, that we are a spiritual being, and you know, this is a borrowed vessel that we're in, and you know, our life's eternal. But I would only sort of go there if they were asking me. I feel that everyone can benefit from coaching, because it's always about really prompting them to find the answers within themselves, and that's kind of what we all need to be doing. Again, it's coming back to that being sovereign and finding what we need from within, and that's the empowering side, you know. And I think that's the same in a way of what my dad sort of did. He told me, and then he let me live my life, and then I went back 20 years later and went, "Oh yeah, you were right."
Wow. You got a sort of a really good start to have sort of, well, yeah, I would say conscious, aware mum and dad. So that's amazing. And again, like the fact that you rejected it and then came back is just, it's kind of the teenager way. I wonder to what extent that is a part of programming, societal programming. The teenage, like the actual term was coined like in the 60s, I believe. And that in essence created a whole demographic that perhaps had to adhere to certain ways of thinking, such as the rebellious sort of "I'm not listening to you" sort of thing, or it could also be something a little bit deeper than that, a bit more chemical, but not interesting. So when it comes to like societal programming, we can go into sort of the limitations that have been imposed by society, namely, I think, to challenge the sort of belief systems and question the origin of them. Do we want to go into like a little bit of the education system, and then we can sort of dovetail into some ways in which you're applying that?
Yeah, definitely. I feel that for me, my personal views on the education system, having been someone who's been to school and then been a parent who has both had their children in school and had their children out of school, for me, the education system is really a place where our children begin this massive like onslaught of indoctrination, to put it quite frankly. You know, it's the whole system was based around making people ready to work in factories, and essentially, you know, it's not changed since. It's there, the bell ringing, the put your hand up, it's even the curriculum, you know, the whole thing is so outdated. And it's to put children in that at such a young age and to switch off the imagination is, you know, it's crazy, isn't it, to expect these children to sit down and be quiet and work. You know, as an adult I would struggle to do that, but to expect a 5-year-old to do that, you know.
Exactly. It's completely nullifies the creative genius that
kids prison.
Exactly. You know, nullifies our innate genius that you have when you're that age. Like, you're still very much in the developmental mental develop stage. Was it till the age of 7 in terms of the physiology. There's it's a massive time, and obviously in that time, like you're saying, is we are in a prison. But again, we're so accustomed to the routineness of everything, and we can obviously see the parallels to when we go into the workplace. The generic workplace is similar. And interesting you say about the bell. You know, I live near a school. Every time I hear it, I just think of the Pavlov's dog and how it's actually used, right, to reset their everything they've learned prior to the bell. So there's the salvation really is the freedom that they get to roam around, but they forget everything, which is interesting.
Wow, yeah.
Most things anyway. But did I tell you about the registration when they call your name out, the teacher in the classroom? Yeah, and it was a big one when I heard that. It's like, well, why would they call your name out when they can see you? And it's to go into it a little bit. It's to obviously, so they acknowledge that they are that name which they're being addressed as, and they become the subject. And this is again how we lose our individuality in essence, because we just become another, name on the list. But it also traps us in another way. But that's a bit of that's quite heavy to go into that. But so when you were at school, do you remember questioning things? Do you remember sort of, thinking something wasn't right? What did you make of it, if you can remember? I can't really even remember either, to be fair, but a little bit.
I mean, to be honest, I just remember looking for clock watching a lot.
Okay.
And just being like, I can't wait till this day's over, or till lunchtime, or till, wanting to get, and it almost, I don't remember thinking there's another way. I do remember just wishing my time away, and that kind of rolled into the beginnings of my work life, because then, to be quite frank, I would clock watch. Oh yeah, I can go for a break now. Or, oh yeah, I can. It's work's finished. It's time to go home. And it was very much that pattern of when you're in the place, you're responsible.
Yeah. I think we lost a little bit of sound there.
I'm back.
There you go. You're right.
Sorry about that. It was very much like I'm in the place I'm working, and then when you get home, that's your free time. And that was, I just remember, like, that was how your day was split up. But I didn't, it was just what I did. I don't remember questioning it really. I was a pleaser. So I just did well because I didn't want to get in trouble.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. It's we kind of we're on autopilot, right? We're not we're not thinking. We're just adhering to a schedule, to a behavior, to a way of being, and
Mhm.
this over time strips us of our authenticity and our just our essence, right? Like you said, it rips it out. So what we have to do is be aware of it and recognize that we're the creators, right?
Mm.
And when we think of creator, it's not necessarily just drawing or creating a nice picture. It's you're creating the outcomes that you want based on the thoughts that you think and the actions that you then activate as a result. But obviously, we have to unravel all of the stuff, all of the spiritual psychosis in a way, because it's just we're forgetting that we are that, and then return into a place of sort of soberness. Really, I like to think when you're conscious, you're sober, and
Mm.
when you follow the news, you follow what happens in politics. You're actually you're yeah you're not sober. You're not thinking straight, which is
Mm.
again inversion. But
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It's like school does really dumb us down. It tells us, let's be honest, it's just to learn and repeat, isn't it? Learn and repeat. And
yeah,
I became very good at learn and repeating. I can, I ask me to learn something and I can repeat it for you, but that's not what we're here to do. Like you say, we're here to create, and not just create. Well, it could be creative drawing, a piece of music, a piece of art, our life. Create these conscious. Be a conscious creator. We are literally creating our universe, our world every day. We don't
yeah.
even realize it on our perception of what we're seeing, and whether we've got the lack mentality or the gratitude. And
Mm,
we know that the people who are out there, who sort of control the world, they know these things. They don't want us to know this. That's why they get the kids in. That's why they dumb them down. Force them to do things that are totally unnatural, give them a little bit of free time, and then they come back in again. And it's about just ripping all of that kind of that spirit out of them, really, so that they just become another, you know, minion almost, isn't it? I can't think
it's
of
a
a
minion.
better word.
It is a minion. Yeah, it's a complete destruction of the spirit, and we all we
Mm,
we are all born with spirit, right? But when we lose that, we lose who we truly are, and then we become subject to the thought of who we think we are,
hmm.
which is modeled on the narratives that were created in the construct.
Yeah.
So then our whole existence becomes subject to that. So the question is, we redefine? How do we redefine ourselves once we
Mm,
know? Once we know it, how do we do it? And this is where you have to unlock your inner voice, right?
mm.
Speaking.
It's almost like, for me, it's almost about not redefining. It's almost about coming home,
Yeah.
like, to who you really are.
Right. Yeah.
And it's that kind of, you're always there. You're just so covered up with the
True.
programming of, what, even from the moment we're born in this unnatural environment,
Mm.
with all the lighting, and everything is sort of the essence of who we really are. And like you say, that spirit is really taken away from
Mm.
us. And once you recognize this, and you recognize that you know, everyone's got their different perceptions, and you've got a mind and a body and a soul, and you're trying to like navigate all this and figure it all out. And it's a real in-depth journey, but it's about going underneath, like going underneath your sort of emotions, and sitting with who you are, you know, whether that's you start meditating or you start going for a walk in nature, and just turning off the noise and start to hear who's there, like within, you know.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, and there's so many distractions. So that's precisely, yeah, it's it's precisely why we almost cannot do that. And once again, you're aware that there are distractions, and you actually identify them as such, then you can start to be like, okay, I don't want to spend my time doing this. Let me redirect it to something that is defining of who you are and what you're passionate about. Finding your joy again, even though you might have endured such a horrendous upbringing, or you know, had some situations that weren't great. You know, it is easier said than done to get yourself out of that way of thinking. But when there's the distractions aren't just from the mainstream media, they're also from what we feed ourselves with in terms of what we're eating and what we're watching. Not just on TV, it can be our environment and other things. So when it comes to speaking your truth, I found that to be one of the most empowering things to do. And that's why when we went to that festival, it was like, wow, I can just be myself, and there's no distractions taking me away from myself, and I have to be something I'm not. And then eventually you just let that all merge into one, right? Like you just become authentic without, you don't need to be at a festival now, like you can be here, what we're doing right now, for example. So
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny because of lockdown, it was like a time that we never had before, where we had all this free time, and so people used it in different ways, didn't they? But for people, I'm sure, like yourself and many others like myself, all of a sudden I had this time where I could start to research. I didn't have all the distractions around me,
right.
and I used it, you know, to look into other things and to start to go down all these different holes and rabbit holes, and I think this is one of the reasons why a lot of people started to see things differently, because they felt uncomfortable. They had all this free time and they started to look around them, and as more and more people started pinging around and saying stuff and questioning, like we said again, it was that ripple effect. And then we started to find each other, like you say, like at that conscious camp, and it's like, oh, I'm not the only one. Oh, look at all these hundreds of people here who are thinking the same sort of thing. And it gives you that bravery, because we need community, we need people around us. And it was quite a lonely journey for quite a lot of people, you know, thinking, am I going mad? And thankfully we sort of came out and we found each other. And that it's not just a strength in numbers in terms of what happens, but it allows you to feel okay with yourself, knowing that you're not the only one.
Yeah, it kind of validates your perceptions.
Yeah, that's it. It validates you. Yeah, and it gives you that strength to have that voice.
Yeah,
you know, I don't know what your social media was like before sort of 2020, but I was never one for sharing my opinion. I would just share a post, and then I started to actually write my own content. And sometimes I would press send, and then sometimes I'd delete it, because I'd be like, oh my god, what are people going to think of me? And it's like this gradual process of finding that voice. But the more you speak, I think, in alignment with your true values, the more you're sort of, you walk your walk, talk your talk, and become in alignment, the easier your life gets for you.
It does. It does. And yeah, like you do meet like you meet people on the same wavelength and operating obviously at different levels of consciousness, but you're all joined on this one knowing. And yeah, you don't feel isolated anymore. And that's exactly the reason, right? Is to we're all inherently looking for that unity, that common unity. And once you have it, then it magnetizes outward, or you bring people in towards you. So this is what it's about. And now this space here is exactly what it's being used for, to platform our voice. And for people who align with us, then they connect, and then we just build. And it's less about self. It's more about collaboration and just uniting against this this unseen force that has its tentacles everywhere. So it's very much like the films.
It
In a
is.
way.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
For real. So when you were in lockdown, you said, yeah, you were just making like the posts here and there. Was there a part of you that, I know you said you deleted posts, and I was kind of similar, but I at one point I just was like, I was too outspoken, and I think now looking back, there's a natural part, isn't it, to do that? It's like once you found out about it, you feel so aggrieved that you've gone through this, that yeah, you want to break other people out of the prison as well, and that can lead into not being in emotional control. Did you have the the composure, or do you think we need composure? Do you think it just, we need to say it how it is within?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Yeah, I feel now that at the time, a lot of what was being said, from myself included, a lot of my posts came from fear, and I was really afraid of what was going to happen. At one point I thought someone was going to come knocking on my door. I want you to have this, proceed, like literally I was like, oh yeah. I wanted to run away. I wanted to, it was just like, what is going on? And it was the frustration of you being able to see something and someone else not. And you just wanted to, but now I feel like, I had a lot of debates and arguments online, and I look back and I think, well, that was so unproductive. When I think about it, I was never gonna win. I don't know if it was about winning, but that isn't the way to go about it. And so this is part of the reason for me now why I started to go down the sort of self-sabotage, the inner work to breaking free route, because it's when you feel that something's not right, or you just want more, you don't have to be questioning everything about the world. It can help everyone, but it can also be a few steps that might sort of encourage people to question a bit why there is so much programming on television, and why there is so much indoctrination in school. But it is open to everyone at the same time, because it's about being inclusive and kind of moving with love rather than fear.
That's the main thing. It's too easy to deviate to fear and anger and hatred, and this is a massive thing I see, is that you have this righteous anger, but it wouldn't be so exposed if it wasn't designed to cause that reaction. in people who have subscribed so much to believing in it, in something, to then just be told, actually, no, we were doing this to you, we were deceiving you. Obviously, the reaction on the the unskilled mind will be reactivity and anger and hate. And what people don't realize is that that is actually fed on. That is a source of food, if you like. Yeah. And the more you're aware of that, then you won't get so aggrieved about what's happening in politics. You won't pay attention to it. It's because it's designed to infuriate you. And this is a massive thing for people to understand, I feel. You just got to acknowledge the patterns, right? And the self-sabotage side of things also comes with acknowledging patterns in your own behavior, not what's going on in the fiction world, the clown world, but what's going on in yourself, in your behaviors, in your thinking, in your reactivity. And that's the competition now, for me anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I feel that so many people are still looking outwardly for us to be saved, and
right.
That that person, and it's like, I understand why that happens, because that is the world that we've lived in. And like you say about films, think about any film, there's a hero, that whatever, but it's about for me personally, it's about understanding that we save ourselves, and that's the sovereignty. We don't look to anyone, because that is never going to get us out of anything. Collectively we do it together, but it's yeah. And of course, like, people are going to get extremely angry and things, but then when I was guilty of it back then, when I was getting angry, that's just division again, and fear. And again, like I said, it's about moving forward and doing things with love and understanding and no judgment.
That's the biggest one, because we've all been in certain places, so you can never judge someone where they're at, unless that's just having no awareness. If you're judging, you're unaware of where you've been, or you can't remember where you've been, because no one's coming to save us. Certainly not Donald.
I know, and there's a saying, isn't there? It's like, if you'd walked a life in their shoes, and you would understand why they think like they think, or something. And it's that thing of, we don't know how someone else has lived, or really what they've really experienced. And it's about just being the best person we can be, and letting other people be themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And that comes with acknowledging this idea of an inner child as well. Would you say that we're largely self-sabotaging because of what's happened before, like we've said about the schooling and everything that happens in that teenage time, and that we can say that period of time is the child era. And when you reflect on it as that, you can kind of see that most people are still playing out their childhood. They're still in the child mentality.
Yeah, it comes back to what you were saying, actually, really interesting about the teenage years, because from what I've sort of learned and understand, it's a lot of many adults, and this was me included, have never really grown up. We're still in this child mentality, which is all about quick results, this instant gratification, having the easy way, not wanting to experience any pain, and really, wanting the easy way all the time, like I say. And it's when we can really sort of step into adulthood and be like, sometimes life is difficult. And I'm not talking about, you know, big traumas or anything like that, but just about sort of digging in and just being like, well, sometimes I am going to have to do things that I don't want to do, but ultimately I can see why I'm doing them and I'm willing to push through. And what happens a lot of the time is our inner child will kick up for various reasons. And this is all about coming back to who we are. It's about being able to, as the person like that, whose inner child that is, we have the ability to hold them better than anyone because we truly know what it is that they need. And so it's about this sort of journey of going inward and relying on ourselves rather than relying on external validation all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's the self-worth and the self-concept, and it's again, these are just terms that people don't really, they've never heard. Like, you know, I never really heard about most of this stuff until I met my wife.
Lovely.
You know, so without people being able to sort of compartmentalize and identify them as like objective ways of thinking. Like, I'm speaking from a logical point of view right now, and then you can start to address it like that. I feel like that's, again, with the coaching methodology, you will naturally now apply that, and people will then start piecing things together based off bridging the gap with all these concepts involved. And, you know, this is reprogramming, again, the subconscious, and it's giving us the empowerment. So let's go into that, about how we shift from this scarcity mindset to abundance. How are the techniques? What are the techniques that you apply, like, to yourself and to clients as well?
Yeah, that's such a good one. I mean, I love information, and there's like so many different ways that you can do this. I can talk about just a few, but, you know, really I would say if you're curious and you're wanting to start to switch up your mindset and step into more of an abundant mindset, like, you can research that and trust that what comes to you is the right thing to do, because there is that sort of trust in the universe and things. But even just focusing on what you have, like gratitude, you know, that law of attraction method of just being like waking up and just feeling grateful for your bed or your roof or, you know, your body or your eyes. You know, we could literally list 1,000 things when we really get into nitty gritty. The phone, you know, your partner, your children, of what we are grateful for. But we take everything, and this is not a criticism, this is just sort of a fact, for granted, because we're so focused on worrying about where we've got to go next or what happened last night and jobs, rather than, you know, the sort of Eckhart Tolle, being in the now, you know, and just focusing on, like, just bring it in. What am I grateful for? And, you know, the premise behind that is the more gratitude we have for what we've got, the more we will receive to be grateful for. So it's really about just getting out of the lack of what I want and just stepping into the feeling of what I'm grateful for. It's just such a simple but really powerful practice to do.
Wow. Yeah, and it really sounds simple, but when you're so used to chaos and your nervous system is calibrated in a way which is constantly seeking movement, activity, overload of thinking in the future, thinking in the past, you can see why it then becomes a problem. But I found one of the easiest ways to just get to the present moment is just through breathing.
Yeah.
And again, breathing. What do you mean? I'm breathing now. It's like no, it's actual thinking about the breath, and that's, you know, that's another avenue to explore is that work. And I actually did one of the breath work events at the Carry On
Mm.
camping, and
Oh, with Julianne, I think it would have been.
yes, it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was amazing.
yeah, it
Life
is amazing.
changing. Wait, were you there? Maybe
Yeah, I was there.
it was you. I knew. Yeah, we did it, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
Oh wow, wow.
I know Juliet. Yeah, it was amazing. Anything like that, like just to nurture ourselves. You know, these really simple techniques, and they sound woo woo and everything else. But if you're looking for something, just give it a go. You know, start small. You know, another thing that my children just laugh at me, but I'm loving right now is just literally just sticking on a track, something uplifting for 2 minutes, and just shaking and dancing and just moving my body and just getting, you know, even if it's not getting things out, just moving, because we're so stagnant, especially this time of year when it's been miserable and snowy and everything. And it's just getting yourself moving is such a thing to invigorate yourself, and you feel in the present moment, and it just helps to rebalance your nervous system.
Yeah.
You know, it's just another lovely technique.
Yeah, no, it's a great one, and you know, you can carry that sort of looseness, that freedom with you when even outside of your home. You know, not necessarily doing it in front of loads of people, but that same joy that you get from it, that same feeling, that becomes kind of like a new addiction, actually. That is, from what I can see or know of what that is you're moving your lymph, you're moving everything. You know, this body was designed to move, and rightly so. So yeah, taking that same freedom, sort of locking it up in here and then taking it out with you, you know, and it's a great way to do it for sure. When it comes to these techniques and you know the things you've applied, the things that work for you, I'm curious about your children, in the sense of, do they think you're, you know, like crazy? I don't like to use that word, but
It's fine.
how do they take it? How, you know, especially in this day and age, it's yeah. What's the sort of outlook with them?
Yeah. So I mean, so just a little bit of background. Both I've got two daughters. One's 14 and one's 12, and they we started to homeschool them back in 2020. They just didn't go back into school, so they've been out of school now for, you know, 4 going on 5 years. And so that obviously has a massive impact in them, in that I suppose we are their normal. You know, they don't go off to school. I'm very aware that their influences are very much myself and my husband. So although they kind of cringe at me, dance, what are you doing? Have you seen mum? Or like video me doing it, or my dancing, my shaking, and laugh at me, I do feel that sort of deep in they kind of do have a respect and a acknowledgement of what we both, our sort of values, you know.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And do they reciprocate? Are they, you know,
You
what's
won't
their sort
get them doing any yoga.
yoga in the sunshine?
Yeah, there's no chance of them partaking in any yoga, any breath work, any meditation, anything like that. They are not interested in. They are very much like, well, what will be, and they will sit down on a full moon and maybe write some intentions or some things they want to let go of and things like that. They're quite open to, and they love the crystals, but sitting down and doing those things with me, that is a bridge too far. But that's okay, because you know, they've got to find their own path in life, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. I think the trouble probably will come in that their peers probably aren't doing this.
Yeah, it's very uncool.
Yeah. Even though actually it's pretty cool. because you're tuning into actually who you are, and you're utilizing something that inherently is good for you. So it is actually the real flex, and it will be in the future. So
I feel that as well. I feel that as well.
yeah.
Do you know anything about human design?
Yeah.
Yeah, so well, both my daughters are manifestors, so they are all about initiating their own thing. They don't like following the norms. They don't like being told what to. They like to initiate. They like to inform and so that made a lot of sense as to why they don't really like. They actually, my youngest, she will give her own version of a yoga class, but it's her way. She won't sit down and do what I ask her to do. But that's just so yeah.
Wow. So obviously, children learn by example, and obviously, you and your husband are the perfect examples of of how to live consciously. You would say, because like you said, you homeschool. You've mentioned that they haven't adhered to what most children do in terms of going down the normative patterns of what a child would face in today's society. Are you able to elaborate a little bit on this? Because when you told me about it, I was just like, this is exactly the way in which, when I have children, they're gonna be doing it.
Do you mean like health wise and things?
Health wise, yeah.
Yeah. So I was really lucky actually that again my dad and my mum, who are both, alternative in a lot of their views. My dad in particular came to me when I was pregnant with my eldest and was very much like, I really want you to consider not giving her any jabs and any of them. And at first I was like, I don't know, but I actually looked into it a lot, and in the end my big decision was that I didn't give her any. And I've been thinking about this today because I knew I was going to talk to you, or suspected I was going to talk to you about it. But I think, like, for me, because it was a massive decision and I didn't take it lightly, and I had sleepless nights over it, and I was really torn between what everyone else did and what I kind of felt like I wanted to do, which was to not do it. But I remember thinking, here's this baby who's like days old, really, weeks old in front of me, and she's healthy. I know she's healthy. Like, she's well and she's working properly and everything's going well. So why would I put anything into her that I didn't fully know what it was, when everything's so strict about what they eat, and you make sure that the fabric's got the right, washing powder and all this kind of stuff. Why would I do that? And I just remember thinking, she's strong enough to fight anything off. I remember feeling that. And so I took the decision not to do it. And all we've ever done for both the girls is use homeopathy. So again, they've had like illnesses and things. My eldest had chicken pox. She came home from the nursery that she was in on the Thursday. She had chicken pox. I gave her homeopathy. On the Monday, she was better. Tuesday, she went back in again. Like, she's never been to a doctor's. Neither of them have, because we've just always gone down the homeopathy route, to the point that I actually had this conversation with my youngest, and I was like, we talked about the doctors, and she said, well, the doctor's just the hospital. And I was like, no, the doctor's isn't the hospital. And she didn't know that the GP surgery was different to a hospital, because she's never needed to know, and she's just never been through the door. And so I feel really blessed that we went down that route, and never look back, really.
Wow. So it's just such a foreign concept now, and that kind of ties in with how our parents my parents, most people's parents parents will just go with what they believe is to be safe. And now years on, we can acknowledge that there's a deception at play, and you can see how the deception is actually the perception. So the management of our perception is rooted in deception, as hard as that is to take, and for you to go against that, you know, to not be swayed by that psychic attack, that hypnosis, if you like, and it to have no, you know, repercussions in an adverse way, is again is highlighted of why this is the correct way to go. And yeah, and it is very inspiring, and with that as well, like you fostered a way of thinking for your children as well, that they already have the upper hand when it comes to this stuff, you know, to have the critical thinking. So do you find them, do you encourage the critical thinking, or are they already on that way of thinking themselves?
Yeah, I absolutely encourage it. And it's, as a parent, it is, you know, a difficult one, because if I'm honest, like, and you know, I'm not a perfect parent at all, you know, neither of us are, and we're constantly on a journey and making mistakes. But
yeah,
sometimes as a parent, you just want your child to do as you ask them, and when you're creating this little person who you want them to think for themselves, and you know, not always do what they're told just because someone tells them to, it's you're almost making a rod for your own back as a parent. But ultimately the goal is that you've got someone who absolutely, like I say, doesn't just do something because they're told to, they want to know why. And so, you know, that's one of the biggest things that me and my husband try to do, is be like, this is what we're asking you to do because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
You know, try and create boundaries that we all adhere to, if I'm honest, rather than, you know, rules for them, you know? Yeah. I saw something online and it was really nice. It was like for families who are unschooling or home educating, and it was like, if you don't know where to start, just 3 things, like boundaries for all of you in the home. Just do one thing that nourishes your space, so whether that's, you know, make your bed or, you know, whatever. One thing that nourishes your, oh god, I'm going to forget now. No, one thing that nourishes your space, one thing that nourishes your body, I think, and one thing that nourishes your mind. And so that's what, you know, we try and just do at least that.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
And yeah, having that as just as a mantra, and that doesn't leave you, you know. A really useful thing I find as well is having auto suggestion. So having posters and, you know, little quotes around the house, and these really help because, again, you're subconsciously picking these things up, and even when you're brushing your teeth, you can have something on the mirror which is like a really powerful message. And, you know, such a boring task then becomes kind of a proactive one, and you can just repeat it and replay it in your head until it becomes, again, the part of you, no longer subconscious. And that's, yeah, it's really, really important. And the environment, like you said about the space, is there, when it comes to sort of your environment, are you aware of, like, you know, the modern day sort of traps and stuff like that, even when it comes to like food shopping, and obviously, you know, about the water? Is that something as well that your children pay attention to?
They'd probably say I was well, you know, they're desperate for us to own a microwave, which we don't own. They want an Alexa, which I'm never going to buy.
No way.
So I'm like, you know, I'm the most annoying parent. But I think they understand why, and
Yeah,
I absolutely. So the thing, you know, I explain to them why I haven't done these things, and you know, like why I only want them to really put natural things on their skin and their hair, but at the same time, I try and let them experiment a bit with what they do. I don't want to
yeah,
sort of force them, you know, down this like no sugar avenue. I want them to be real and, you know, be a child. Uh,
yeah,
but yeah, absolutely. I try and shop as consciously as I can and source, you know, local food where I can and things like that because, well, as we know, you know, gosh, we're being bombarded, aren't we, with toxins everywhere at the moment.
yeah. It's pretty heavy, the attacks. Um, you know, sometimes when I look into the sky and I see, you know, trails that don't subside,
Mm.
I sometimes wonder whether it's there's not even there's no danger, like there's no harm, there's no nothing to be worried about with that. But in well, for most that who are aware of these things, they can see them, and then they start to. I feel like it creates like an anger, a hatred when they see these things. So
Mm.
then that's what I was saying. It feeds this low frequency, low vibration thinking is a source of food. It's a source. If I know it's kind of crazy to think of that, but this is energy that we're
Yeah.
talking about,
Yeah.
and we're sharing it all the time. So it's just something I just what I just put in there.
Yeah, that's really interesting because you know what? I was thinking this today actually, because we've had this weird low cloud, haven't we? And a lot of people have been talking about, you know, getting poorly with it and all this kind of stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I did think to myself, are we almost manifesting this, you
Mm.
know, the truthers or whatever, because we keep seeing it and therefore we are thinking that it's going to happen, you know?
Exactly.
And my answer is I don't know, but it's like, well, what are we giving so much attention to this
Yeah.
and so much fear around it? And I'm not wanting to be naive, and like I say, I don't have the answer, but like you say, this energy, you know, it's we are the fear and that vibration of fear and all this stuff. That's what they're calling out for, isn't it? That's what people are wanting.
Yeah, it's provoking, and we got a comment here saying kids with vapes is horrendous, and
Mm.
it's another one. It's another one that is so overt to the extent where it once it provokes a reaction, and the reaction is generally one of frustration, anger, and all these other low frequency ways of thought. And so now I'm kind of I'll see, I'm not even surprised at what I read now with something, you know, something ridiculous like this thing with, you know, cows to stop them from producing methane and
Mm.
all this stuff. And I just feel like these are just put there in the collective space for people to rile people up and to create more distraction, more talking points, whilst there's other stuff going on. And it's just having that discernment, and I think that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's oh my gosh, like there is so much stuff out there at the moment, isn't there? And you know, I think, you know, we can get you if you can get your raw milk, then get your raw milk. But
Yeah.
if you're gonna, and this is again, like as a parent, it's a really tricky thing because, like I say to my children about sugar and junk food,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, like but then it's that line between I don't want them then eating it, thinking I'm eating this, and then thinking, well, this is going to make me poorly because I
Mm.
keep telling them
True,
if you eat
true.
junk food, it's no good for you. You know, it is that crazy line, isn't it, of everything's just balanced. But in the end, I've actually said to my children, well, I'd rather you didn't. But if you're going to eat it, enjoy it and be grateful for it, you know, because like I don't want
Yeah,
them eating it going, oh, I feel really guilty now, you know, because, well, what's the point in that?
yeah, exactly. I think with that, it's just consistency, isn't it? It's the amount you do it, um,
Yeah.
and I think, you know, there's certain ones to stay completely away from, um, but you know, other than that, I feel like you said is to honor their uniqueness, honor their sort of their freedom of choice. Obviously, not letting it get too catastrophic, um, because why would you? Um, and yeah, just like you said, is to be the model of integrity, have that model of integrity, and
Mm.
I think when it comes to understanding energy as well, that is by far where the next generation of coaching is going.
Mm.
Because when we're using these are words you're not going to hear in a doctor's surgery. He's not
No.
necessarily going to be talking about, you know. So yeah. So what's sort of your vision for coaching going forward with more people now becoming aware of things and not being sort of privy to these ways of speaking? What's your your methodology?
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think like when we talk about energy, it's like emotions, obviously energy, emotion, and it's all kind of related, but I just feel it's about people really reaching like higher vibrations by releasing those darker, like heavier emotions and being able to like be more in joy or be more in love. Is that kind of what you mean? And
Yeah,
because for me, you know, that's sort of where I think it's at. And I think people are becoming curious about energy, and people can kind of, you can feel it, can't you? You can feel when you walk into a room, and you can, you know, even if it's just the vibe, you know, that really, I think, like we were saying when we spoke before, that is the thing, the vibration, the vibe, that people already have that kind of terminology. It's just really getting that deeper understanding and awareness of what it actually means.
yeah, yeah, totally. It's like we're using those words without really knowing that we're talking about something a bit more esoteric.
Mm.
And yeah, so I feel when we are in a position to give people the tools to understand that you have it all within you in the sense of understanding what energy is, because you are that. We're batteries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, multi-dimensional batteries, more than that. And then it's like, how do I harness? How do I use that? Well, it's like you've been using it your whole life,
Mm.
but just not necessarily in the way in which is going to be more fruitful for you, more beneficial. And
Mm.
this is where we come in. This is where the next generation of coaching comes in. It's the holistic approach, and it's awakening their potential, right? Getting them out of the situations they're in, or making them more at peace with it.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, that's coming to me now is like understanding that our energy is literally our most almost valuable commodity. Like, where are people putting their energy?
Yeah.
Sort of like we were saying, you know, are we putting it in the fear? Are we putting it in worry? Are we putting it in, you know, the constant thinking about what happened last night? Or are we putting it in manifesting, you know, like our vision, you know,
Yeah.
really like think understanding that our energy is so important, but we are being pulled to all these like lower vibrations where it's just keeping us so down. And that's the shadow work, isn't it? It's about going
Mm.
in and not trying to necessarily change that, but just shining the light on it and giving those the awareness that it's like, I love you for all of myself, you know,
Mm.
and light and dark, you know, we've
Yeah.
all got that within us, but it's just shining that light on and getting to know that version of ourselves really just almost takes its power away.
Exactly. You once you integrate it, it's not as predominant. And whilst we are comprised of both light and dark aspects, it's which one do you prefer? You know, you can embrace that darker side as long as you're not harming anyone, but ideally we want to be in the lighter side. It's like the acid alkaline thing, you know. And that's just, again, this must be so foreign to some people, the way in which we're talking. You know, but this is again for people who will have to understand what this stuff is. We're like we said, people are going to have no choice in a way, unless you want to obviously not be here. But it's I know, and it's just such a lovely conversation to have with you, and I love, we're just like so similar in the way we think about stuff, but you know, it is that kind of, I don't know how you think about this, but I feel like things are almost coming a split, and it's like there are us here who've got all these crazy ideas, like you said, don't like using that word crazy, but alternative, but you know, and then there's the other ones, and it's so far removed. But I feel that I don't know what's going to happen, but it's just about being ready to almost embrace the ones who want to move over, because I feel that more and more people will suddenly go, oh my God. Yeah, they will. And you kind of have to be ready for them. But obviously for those who want support, they're the ones that we have to be ready for, because some people will never be ready and want to confer in someone else about this stuff. But little do they know is that they're only self-sabotaging. And you know, maybe that's their path, and that's fine, right? Like, we've all got different paths. So how would you deal with someone who's like completely lost? They come to you and they just put it all out onto a plate for you. What's your way of like rationalizing? Like, where do you start?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I mean, I feel like every case is different, but yeah, if someone came to me and they were like, this is happening and I'm sabotaging myself here and I don't know what to do, I think one of the best ways to start is just literally with the information of how our subconscious works and how we're programmed. Because for me, like, that was one of the first things that I learned when I came down this journey, really. And then things started to make sense to me. I started to realize, why a lot of my patterns and habits were what they were, and recognize that I'd picked a lot of them, these ways that I thought and what I was thinking, I'd picked up, and they weren't even my beliefs. They were just beliefs of a narrative from maybe a TV show that I watched, or what someone said to me 20 years ago. And I think when someone is given that information, they can really start to then be honest with awareness of their limiting beliefs and where they're at. And it's that awareness with love, without guilting yourself or trying to shame yourself anymore, just really with love and nurturing, trying to start to get to know yourself. And then this journey kind of like unravels.
Exactly.
But it's holding space, but it's holding the space for someone to be able to do that. And I think that's kind of what I like to think that I do with my coaching. It's about allowing that curiosity to come out, and just a space where it's safe to explore who you are, and to look back through your history and your past, maybe generations, and just like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
What is life trying to teach me? Why does this pattern, why does this situation keep coming up? You know, I've changed jobs and it's happened again. Or maybe life's trying to show you something and you're just not quite getting the memo. And that curiosity.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's speaking. The universe speaks to you in its own way, and sometimes that can be in not great situations. And rather than becoming a victim of your circumstances, it's like you said, it's reclaiming your sovereignty, reclaiming your autonomy, and realizing who you are. You create you can create a better outcome for yourself. You just got to work through it with compassion, and there you go.
I mean, I was such a victim. Like in my early 20s, I was proper, oh, it's not fair, why me, you know, it's them, why don't they like me, all this kind of stuff. And you know, I needed to go through that. I needed to go through those situations in order to have the lessons now to reflect back on. But and it's normal, you know, and if people are going to do that, it's not a criticism, but there's nothing more empowering than when you realize that, yes, okay, you created the situations that you're in, but you can also create a new situation. You have that power within you, and that's the empowering side, you know, of life. It's like, well, okay, you may have created the situation that you're in with your job that you don't like again, and the lessons trying to, because you haven't listened to what the universe is trying to show you here. But start to tune in, like, and things can change in an instant.
Yeah, start to take it seriously.
Yeah,
it's not a mess about thing. It's real life. And the sooner people snap out of this this idea, it's woo woo stuff. The moment you're going to have such a such a turn in the tide, and it's going to be even more beautiful, this life. So it's getting to that point, and some people's waves, you know, they can't ride, they drown under the waves, but you can always swim back up. You know, we can all swim. We can all get ourselves out of deep water, with enough willpower that we've been all gifted with. So this is about it. It's about being able to know that you can do that. And
yeah. And I think as well, just to say, like, I think as well, detaching, like, we've become so trapped into like the outcome or what's happened because we want everything to be perfect. But sometimes when you just sit back and like just look at the situation with a perspective, and it's not always easy, and you know, for other people, you know, I'm in a really blessed position. I'm not saying it can always, like I say, be that easy, but tomorrow or next year or in 5 years' time, is this thing really going to matter that much?
Exactly.
You know, it's that you know, and yeah, just trying to just like I said, let go a bit.
Yeah. I wonder why we anticipate, sort of. I know about negative confirmation bias, that we're always trying to validate certain things by going for the negative. But I wonder if that's a kind of cognitive switch, like you said, that isn't ours, and we just have to have the breakthrough in a way to switch it off. You know, when you catch yourself wanting to think, I actually don't do it that much now. Go to the negative, when I can just, well, hang on, I can choose a positive. I can choose that, you know. And it's like, wow, okay, I'm switching things on myself now. I'm not just autopilot. Do you find that?
Becoming more conscious, yeah. I mean, exactly. I was like a classic, oh, I knew that was going to go wrong. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Yeah. You know, like that was me, you know, this because I was, and there's a saying, isn't there, that, you know, I'd rather focus on the worst outcome because at least then I won't be disappointed. It's
Right.
like,
That's,
oh,
oh no, no, no.
you know, let's focus on the best outcome that could ever happen. And but it's so ingrained in society to sort of have these negative thoughts about what could happen, and the worrying and the controlling. And I was very much there. Like now, I can catch myself like thinking, right, don't think that. Don't say I'm going to be late, or
Yeah.
don't, you know, I'm going to be on time, or I'll be there when I need to be, you know, because I'm still catching myself, like I say. But it is an ongoing, ever kind of journey of recognizing your thoughts and becoming conscious of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely a lot in a better place than I was. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels so freeing. And like you said about detachment, when you see people you care about who who aren't doing that, you
Mm-hmm.
wanna you wanna interject and be like, oh, but you know, but then you have to realize that maybe their ego is at a certain
Ego.
level, yeah, and then you get the reaction, even though you're trying to help. Um, so now I think detachment is a key, and to let people kind of find things out themselves. It's just hard when it's someone you love, you know.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, and you can see them sort of going through the thought processes and thinking that everything's going to go wrong, and you know,
Yeah,
but it's that why it's not about oh, I forgot the phrase, I'm so sorry. It's like, rather than what's the worst that can happen, what's the best that can happen? Let's
yeah,
focus on what the best thing is that could ever happen. And we're
exactly.
almost like, we don't want to do that because we feel we're going to be disappointed. But when you start to realize that you don't need to worry about the how, you don't need to worry about how this is going to happen. Things can just happen in ways that you have never imagined. But our ego or our subconscious, that's the unknown, and that's scary. But it's becoming comfortable with just pushing that and testing that boundary a bit and learning to become that bit more expansive in our thinking and
Yeah,
play with it, you know, just play with it.
it's true. And obviously we can't, we need the action side of it, obviously, um,
Mm.
because I think it's quite easy to, as much as we know we're powerful, to tap fully into how powerful we are. We also have to remember we're on this third dimensional plane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas our thoughts are more, yeah, 4, 5 dimensional, whatever you want to categorize it as. But it's certainly, you can't hold a thought in your hand, so it's certainly not third dimensional.
Mm.
And that's why that sort of coming together, once you have that beautiful, beautiful thought, then it's like, okay, let me put the activity in now. And this is where it's the most practical. Um, but like you said about being in a job that you don't like, I I was in that place, and I was like, well, I saw someone who went self-employed and through his own creative labor, and I was like, I'm gonna do that, And then you just become proactive to create that outcome. So it was always going to happen. It just needed that proactivity, and I think
Mm.
that's the key aspect that comes into it. And it's like the procedural side of it. Um, and that's, yeah, I think that's a massive part of what we're talking about as well.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's almost like being able to be disciplined with ourselves. You know, that's something that I try and teach my daughters, is about, and this is kind of what they tried to, I think what they've tried to take away from us, because, you know, we go out the home and we do what we're told to do. We come back and that's our relaxing time. And it's taken away that self-discipline where we say, well,
yeah,
no, I'm going to study when I get home because I'm choosing to, because I'm worth it. Like, I'm worth bettering myself, not because I'm being told to do this. It's doing it because you're saying that you want to do it for yourself, and it is that discipline, it is that pain, it's that keeping going and being consistent, and maybe not getting the reward until 2 years later, but every day it's that step closer. But we're so wanting instant, you know, and that doesn't happen with the things that we're talking about always. It's about showing up for yourself and embracing that journey. That's not, you know, it's the cliche, but it is about what you learn on the journey rather than the destination. And it's not going to be linear. It's going to be all over and probably a bit messy, but that's what we came for, right? It's the experience.
That's what we came for. The experience, yeah, the full spectrum of emotion, and what we do with that energy, what we do with it. Do we manifest, or do we man-infest? Do we create infestation with our thinking, or do we do the other?
I like that one.
And yeah, definitely that's what I feel. Yeah, is the experience. That's what we're here for, and to let people know that yeah, you can do that as well. That you're just as powerful. You know, step into it and see where it takes you. Here's the sort of guidebook. You know, catering to their own unique needs. Try this. You know, and I think that's another one, is the approach is not a one size fits all, is it? Obviously. So how would you say when you have, you know, you recommend some practices to some people they just don't get on with, you know, yoga or something like that? How do you approach that in terms of sort of catering for them? Like, what's your sort of your way of doing that?
Yeah, I think it's really about just sort of trusting your instinct on something, you know, that initial kind of, because there is so many more modalities out there. And one of the things I think that is a really good question, because sometimes I think the one thing that you really don't want to do is sometimes the one thing that you should do. You know, so if someone's like, oh, I really don't want to do that, well, first of all, like, understand that you're not going to do it right probably the first time. You're not going to be perfect, because it's about trial and error, and that kind of fear of failure, that just needs to kind of, okay, well, I've got this aspect of me, fear of failure, I'm just going to sit it there while I go and try this out. You know, because we're so used to being perfect at everything all the time, or we're not used to being perfect, but expectations of being perfect all the time. And it's just about, in a way, like lightening up and just having a bit of fun with these things, and releasing the expectation. You know, just do it and see what happens, rather than doing it of the, you know, that either, oh, this isn't going to work, well, then it probably won't work, or this really needs to work, but then you're putting too much pressure on it. It's just kind of just, like we say, like, detach from the outcome and just enjoy the moment, and just do it with no expectation, because that's what I find. Like, I've started to do a bit of EFT, which is tapping. One of the things of that is, like, really just let go of any expectation, because when you try and explain how it works and how it could work, it sounds a bit out there, but when you just sit there and allow the process to happen, it's so powerful. You could say the same for homeopathy or any of these things. Try and understand how it works. Well, just try it and see if it works.
Exactly.
Open-mindedness.
Yeah. EFT for me made me cry the first time I did it.
Me too.
It was amazing.
Wow.
The release was beautiful. I had some pain in my shoulder, and I thought it was just for overtraining, but no, it was more emotional, and that got released, and I just was I was like, okay, I want to do this now. Like, so yeah, that again, the holistic approach is the way forward, and I'm just excited to see how everything now develops, and more people understanding what we're actually talking about. And yeah, just as us, just being of service.
Yeah.
You know, we're here for the experience, but also that's, you could say that's the selfish side, but the selfless side is to be of service, to be yeah, stewards,
Yeah,
if you like.
absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's gonna be a beautiful year. I have no doubt. Um, let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks. I've heard some things, but let's
Yeah.
let's see.
Let's see. I think it's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be a big one, right?
Yeah, and I've no doubt that yeah, what we're doing is going to be a massive value. So I'm yeah, just taking each day as it comes. Obviously, stay present, have those ambitions, and like you said, with the right mindset, which we've cultivated now, we can generate that outcome, what we
Yeah,
actually desire.
absolutely.
Right?
You do, and yeah, you're doing some amazing things. It's really cool.
Likewise, you know, we're on the level, you know, and yeah, it's been great. We've nearly been speaking 2 hours now.
My
So
gosh, that was insane, isn't it? Thank you so much. It's been so lovely to chat to you.
it's been awesome. Thank you, Lucy. And obviously, people know where to get you on Instagram, and you're on Facebook as well, right?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. Yeah. No, it's been amazing.
All right, fantastic. All right, so we'll share this on platforms and stuff, but I think it's going to go. I'm going to post it straight away,
Cool.
and yeah, we'll get it spread on platforms and stuff. But thank you for all who tuned in.
Yeah,
Much
thank you very much,
appreciated.
guys. Yeah,
Brilliant.
absolutely. Thank you. It's been fantastic.
Awesome. All right. I will speak to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Beautiful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Gratitude. Bye.
Always. Let's go.